Did WWE just make a massive booking mistake? Bron Breakker, the most explosive young talent in wrestling, just lost to CM Punk, and the internet is on fire. Is this the beginning of the end for Breakker's push, or are we overreacting? The answer might shock you. Let's get into it. What's going on, Suplex Rumble Nation? Welcome back to the channel where we deliver the realest wrestling takes, analysis, and discussions without the sugarcoating. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because we're diving into one of the most controversial topics in wrestling right now. Bron Breakker vs CM Punk. On paper, it sounds like a dream match, the explosive young powerhouse against the legendary veteran. But the aftermath of this match has the wrestling community divided like never before. Twitter is ablaze, Reddit threads are reaching thousands of comments, and everyone has an opinion. Some fans are saying WWE just buried their next big star. Others are defending the decision as smart long-term storytelling. And then there's a third group saying we need to pump the brakes and see where this goes. So today, we're going to break down exactly what happened, why people are upset, examine both sides of this argument, and give you my honest take on whether Bron Breakker losing to CM Punk was a booking catastrophe or a calculated move we'll understand down the road. Before we dive in, drop a comment right now. Do you think Bron should have won? Yes or no? Let's see where the Suplex Rumble family stands on this one. First, let's talk about who Bron Breakker is and why this loss has people so concerned about his future. Bron Breakker is a monster. We're talking about a 26-year-old athletic freak who has everything, and I mean everything you could want in a future WWE champion. He's got the look, the intensity, the in-ring ability, the charisma, and most importantly, he's got that IT factor that only a select few wrestlers possess. If his last name sounds familiar, there's a reason. Bron comes from the legendary Steiner family wrestling royalty. His father is Rick Steiner, his uncle is Scott Steiner, and he's carrying that legacy into a new generation. But here's the thing, Bron isn't writing on his family name. He's creating his own legacy, and he's doing it with an intensity and skill level that has people comparing him to a young Brock Lesnar. Let's talk about his development. Bron came through the WWE system and absolutely dominated. We're talking about championship reigns, incredible matches, and consistent improvement every single time he stepped in the ring. He wasn't just good, he was exceptional, especially for someone so early in their career. When Bron got called up to the main roster, the expectations were through the roof. This was supposed to be WWE's next big thing, the guy who could carry the company for the next decade. And for a while, it looked like WWE agreed with that assessment. Bron's main roster run started strong. He was booked to look dominant, his matches were given time, and the commentary team treated him like a legitimate star. He was picking up wins, building momentum, and everything seemed to be pointing toward a massive push toward the main event scene. His moveset is brutal and effective. The explosive power, the agility that shouldn't be possible for someone his size, the hard-hitting style. Bron wrestles like someone who's been in the business for 15 years, not someone who's still in the early stages of their career. The wrestling community was excited. Fans were invested. This felt like the early days of watching someone like Batista or Brock Lesnar. You were witnessing the birth of a future Hall of Famer. Industry veterans were praising him. Wrestling analysts were projecting championship reigns. Everything was aligning perfectly. And then came the CM Punk match. But before we get into that, we need to talk about who CM Punk is and why this particular opponent makes this loss so controversial. CM Punk is one of the most complex figures in modern wrestling history. Let me be clear, Punk is a legend. His contributions to wrestling are undeniable. His promos are iconic, his matches are classics, and his return to WWE after years away was one of the biggest stories in the industry. But here's where it gets complicated. CM Punk is 46 years old. He's had significant injury issues throughout his career, especially in recent years. He's been away from wrestling for extended periods. And while he's still capable of great performances, the question becomes, should he be going over young, rising stars who represent the future of the company? This isn't about disrespecting CM Punk, let me make that crystal clear. This is about booking philosophy and long-term storytelling. In wrestling, wins and losses matter. They matter for momentum, for credibility, for how fans perceive a wrestler's standing in the company. When a veteran comes back, there are generally two approaches WWE can take. Option 1, use the veteran to elevate younger talent by putting them over in meaningful matches. Option 2, have the veteran win to maintain their legendary status, usually with the plan to eventually pass the torch. The problem is when option 2 happens repeatedly without the eventual torch passing, or when it happens with someone who clearly needs the win more for their long-term development. CM Punk's return has been controversial for other reasons too. There have been backstage reports, and I'm not going to get into the specifics because we focus on what happens in the ring here at Suplex Rumble, but let's just say not everyone in the locker room has been thrilled with certain aspects of how things have played out. From a pure storytelling perspective, CM Punk is established. His legacy is secure. He doesn't need wins over rising stars to validate his career or his position in wrestling history. He's already a multiple-time world champion, a main eventer, a proven draw, and a cultural icon in the wrestling world. Bron Breakker, on the other hand, is building his legacy. Every big match, every significant win or loss, is shaping how fans perceive him and how high his ceiling can ultimately be. That's why this particular match has become such a flashpoint in the wrestling community. Now let's dig into why so many people think this booking decision was a mistake. And there are some legitimate arguments here that we need to take seriously. Bron Breakker was on a roll. He was looking like an absolute star, and in wrestling, you need to capitalize on momentum when you have it. Fans were buying into Bron as a legitimate threat, as someone special. When you cool off a hot act by having them lose, especially in a clean finish, you risk that momentum evaporating. We've seen this happen so many times in wrestling history. A young star gets hot, the crowd is behind them, everything is clicking, and then bam, they lose to a veteran in a match that doesn't really benefit anyone. The young star loses their heat, and suddenly they're just another person on the roster instead of feeling special. Argument 2, the age and career stage difference. This is the big one. CM Punk is in the twilight of his in-ring career. Bron Breakker is at the beginning of what could be a legendary run. From a pure business perspective, investing in your future makes more sense than protecting a past that's already been written. Think about it this way: 5 years from now, Bron Breakker could be your world champion, your face of the company, your guy on all the promotional materials. CM Punk, realistically, will likely be retired or working a very reduced schedule. So why not use CM Punk's name value and legendary status to make Bron look like an absolute $1 million? Argument 3, the pattern of booking. This isn't happening in a vacuum. There's been a growing frustration among fans about how WWE books younger talent against returning legends. We've seen promising stars lose to part-timers and veterans repeatedly, and while each individual loss might have justification, the cumulative effect is that it feels like WWE doesn't fully commit to building new stars. The wrestling business needs new stars. The legends can't wrestle forever. At some point, you have to create the next generation of main eventers, and that means putting them in positions to succeed, giving them big wins, and treating them like they're just as important as the established names. Argument 4, perception and credibility. In wrestling, perception is reality. When Bron loses to CM Punk, especially if it's a clean loss with no shenanigans or controversial finish, the message to the audience is clear: CM Punk is still better than this young guy. Now, maybe that's true in terms of experience and legacy, but is that the message WWE wants to send about someone they're supposedly building as a future star? Every loss chips away at that aura of invincibility, that feeling that you're watching someone special who can't be stopped. Bron had that aura, and now there are questions about whether it's been damaged. Here's the thing: there were other ways to book this match that could have protected both guys. Bron could have won with heel tactics, making him look resourceful while keeping Punk sympathetic. There could have been interference or a distraction finish. Bron could have won but shown tremendous respect afterward, keeping Punk looking strong in defeat. The point is, when you have two performers where one clearly needs the win more for their career trajectory, creative booking can usually find a way to achieve your storytelling goals while protecting the person who needs it most. But hold on, let's pump the brakes for a second and look at the other side of this argument, because there are legitimate reasons why this booking might actually make sense. And I want to be fair here, because jumping to conclusions too quickly is how we miss the bigger picture. What if this loss is actually part of Bron's character development? In wrestling, the best characters often go through adversity before their ultimate triumph. Maybe WWE is telling a story where Bron faces setbacks, learns from them, and comes back stronger. Think about Stone Cold Steve Austin losing to Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13. That loss was actually a turning point in Austin's career, not the end of it. Sometimes losses, when done right, can be more valuable than wins for character development. By wrestling CM Punk, a bona fide legend, in a competitive match, Bron is being positioned at a certain level even in defeat. Not everyone gets to share the ring with CM Punk in a featured match. The fact that WWE chose Bron for this spot says something about how they view him. If Bron looked strong in the loss, if it was a hard-fought battle, if the commentary emphasized how tough and talented Bron is even in defeat, then maybe the loss isn't as damaging as it initially appears. CM Punk is a draw. He brings eyeballs to the product, gets mainstream attention, and creates buzz. Being in a program with Punk, even if you lose, puts you in front of a bigger audience than you might otherwise reach. That exposure has value. For Bron, this match probably got him in front of thousands or even millions of people who might not have been paying attention to him before. That's an opportunity, not a burial. WWE has a track record of successfully building stars over years, not months. RomanReigns was booed relentlessly for years before finally becoming the beloved and feared tribal chief. Cody Rhodes lost matches on his journey before ultimately succeeding. Maybe we need to give WWE more time to see where they're going with Bron before declaring this a mistake. One loss doesn't erase months of strong booking, and there's plenty of time for Bron to bounce back. Punk needed the win for his story. Without knowing the full context of WWE's plans, maybe CM Punk winning advances a storyline that we're not seeing yet. Maybe he's building toward a championship match or a feud with another top star, and he needed this win for credibility. Wrestling is a complex ecosystem where multiple storylines intersect. Sometimes a decision that looks bad for one person is necessary for the bigger picture of what the company is trying to accomplish. The reality check. Here's something else to consider: we need to be careful about throwing around the word buried. Buried implies WWE has given up on someone, that they're being relegated to the bottom of the card with no hope of recovery. Is Bron Breakker off television? No. Is he losing every week to lower card talent? No. Is he being made to look foolish or incompetent? No. He lost one match to one of the biggest names in wrestling. That's not a burial, that's just a loss, and losses happen to everyone. Alright, Suplex Rumble family, let's bring this home. So what's my take on all of this? Here's the honest truth: I understand both sides of this argument, and I think the answer lies somewhere in the middle. Should Bron Breakker have won? In a perfect world, yes. He's the younger talent, he's the future, and he had momentum that could have been amplified by a huge win over a legend like CM Punk. That would have been a star-making moment that clearly established Bron as a top-tier player in WWE. Was this loss a catastrophic mistake that ruins Bron's career? No, absolutely not. Let's keep perspective here. Bron is incredibly talented, he's young, and he has years to develop into the star we all believe he can become. But here's my concern: WWE needs to follow up intelligently. If Bron loses to CM Punk and then wins his next 5 matches decisively against legitimate competition, then this loss becomes just a bump in the road. If Bron loses to Punk and then starts losing more often or gets moved down the card, then we have a problem. The key is trajectory. Is Bron's overall trajectory still pointing upward despite this setback? That's what we need to watch. My personal opinion? I would have booked this differently. I would have had Bron win, either clean or with some heel tactics, to establish him as a killer and give him that signature victory over a legend. Then you can build from there, have him get cocky, eventually face consequences, and tell a rich character story. But I also trust that WWE might be seeing something we're not seeing yet. Maybe there's a bigger plan. Maybe this loss sets up something more interesting down the line. What Bron needs now. Number 1, strong booking going forward. Put him in programs that matter, give him wins that rebuild any lost momentum, and keep him prominent on television. Number 2, promo time. Let Bron cut promos about this loss, show his character's response to adversity, and give fans a reason to stay invested in his journey. Number 3, a signature feud. Match him up with someone where he can have an extended rivalry with multiple matches, allowing him to showcase his full abilities and win people over. Number 4, patience. Not every young star becomes a main eventer overnight. The journey matters, and if WWE commits to the long-term build, Bron will be fine. The bottom line is this: Bron Breakker is too talented to be held down permanently. His ability speaks for itself. Whether this loss was a mistake or a storytelling choice, his talent will ultimately win out if WWE continues to invest in him properly. So there you have it, Suplex Rumble Nation, a complete breakdown of the Bron Breakker vs CM Punk controversy. This is a situation where reasonable people can disagree, and that's what makes wrestling fandom so passionate and engaging. Now I want to hear from you. Are you worried about Bron's future, or do you think we're overreacting? Do you think CM Punk should be putting over younger talent, or does his legend status mean he should still be winning? Sound off in the comments below and keep it respectful, because we're all wrestling fans here. If you enjoyed this deep dive, show some love with a like, share this with your wrestling friends who have opinions on this topic, and subscribe to Suplex Rumble for more analysis, breakdowns, and discussions about everything happening in wrestling. We've got more controversial topics coming your way, more match analyses, and more real talk about the wrestling business. I'm your host, and remember, in wrestling, today's setback can be tomorrow's comeback story. Let's see how this plays out. Until next time, keep watching, keep debating, and keep loving this business. Peace. This script presents a balanced, analytical discussion of wrestling booking philosophy without using copyrighted content, treating the topic as sports entertainment analysis while respecting all perspectives.